just what is your definition of a black belt?
I would say this is a university degree. That's all it is. Once you've got this, you've got to go out into the city and work. This is the base that you build at the bottom of your house. And once you've built this base, you've got to build on top of it and start constructing a building around it. I think black belts are nice to get. It's like a goal to aim for, but it can mean everything and it can mean nothing. If you get a black belt in my system, I would say you're prepared. You're absolutely prepared, because we make people do what they would have to do in a real fight to get this. But in a lot of systems, you will be perhaps a black belt in karate, so that means you're good at doing karate in this arena, but it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be good outside. It doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be bad either. It really depends on the instructor, on the association, whether you've earned it, whether you've bought it. You know, to me it can mean everything, it can mean nothing. To me, I'm proud of the black belts that I've gained, but really they don't mean anything. I mean, commercially it's quite good, because if I'm talking to the uninitiated and I'm trying to get my views across, they want to know that Geoff Thompson's a 5th dan in karate. I know it doesn't mean anything, but to them it means everything, because if I'm not a 5th dan in karate, they're going to say, oh well, I'll talk to someone who's a 5th dan. So for me to get my views across, this becomes a beacon, and it attracts people. But when it attracts them to me, I will say, actually that's not what it's about, that's what attracted you, but this is what it's about. And then I'll give them the real message, give them the real truth. But I think it's good in the early days to help you build up, and I think they're nice to have, but you know, outside the chip shop or outside the nightclub, when you've got some guy with a face like 10 boxers, he won't give a damn whether you're a 4th dan or a 5th dan, or even whether you're a desperate dan.
Even if you bring your licence out?
Even if you bring your licence, that might throw it. It has been done, hasn't it? But it won't mean nothing to him. In fact, to him it's like conquest. You're a 5th dan and he beats you, he thinks he's a 6th dan. So it can mean everything and it can mean nothing. It means, if it means, I'd say if that means too much to you, then you're not there. You know, if that's everything to you, you know, and if you're going from association to association, hunting for higher grades, you're on a sugar pedestal, and when the rain comes down, it's going to melt underneath you.
Yes, I mean, I suppose I've been there, Geoff, myself, but do you feel that some people actually start martial arts and use the martial arts as a shield to hide behind?
It's definitely a shield that people hide behind. And that's okay, because I think, like you said, we've all done that. It's part of growing. But you know, you shouldn't be hiding. You shouldn't be still hiding when you're a 5th or a 6th dan.
Yeah, what does a 5th or a 6th dan mean to you, though? You know?
To me, at 5th or 6th dan, you know, it should be an internal fight. It should be an internal growth. You know, like the early dans, like 1st and 2nd dan, is really about being physical, learning to work your body, and above that, you know, it should be about controlling your habits, like your diet, what you eat, what you drink, how you talk to people, how you present yourself, being a respectful and humble person. And 4th and 5th dan onwards, it should be starting to go into the spiritual side of it. You should be starting to look at controlling the way you think, controlling how I think about people, you know, how I judge people, how I talk to people, how I act with people, how I live my life. I should be looking at that highest plane. By the time you get to that level, you should have transcended from physical to psychological to spiritual. Once you get to 4th and 5th dan, you should be looking at the connection between psychological and spiritual, and you should be looking at leading a better life, trying to serve, trying to be a better person. Now, this doesn't mean that you become a monk and live in a cave somewhere, but it does mean that you should start looking at the way you live your life. It doesn't mean you shouldn't be ambitious. Ambition's okay. Just don't make material things your God. The important things are people, and what you can do for people and how you can help people. And that starts with helping yourself, forgiving yourself, being kind to yourself, then to the people in the immediate vicinity, like your family, and then to the people along the outside. Because you get a lot of people who will do anything for the best mate, but they won't do anything for their wife and kids. Yes. So that isn't good. You know, they say Joe Bloggs is the best guy down the pub. He's a funny bloke. He'd do anything for you, but his wife hates him and his kids can't stand him. Because when he goes home, he doesn't do nothing for them and he's cruel. So it's got to start with yourself. Inside, be kind to yourself. The things you've done wrong in your life, forgive yourself. Learn to understand yourself, learn to control yourself, and start mastering everything on a physical, psychological, spiritual level, and then start passing that information on to other people and trying to give love and kindness and compassion to the people around you. And definitely transcending violence, but not transcending violence until you understand it. You can't transcend something you haven't mastered. Here, catching hold and flattening him out. As he's flattened out, you've got your hand fitted through here, okay? So come through, latch your own hand, bring your right leg out here, but keep the elbow into his head so it's nice and tight, so that he can't sit through, okay? So you've grabbed your own hand, sitting right across him so you're nice and tight, and then just gradually coming through and sitting back. And as soon as you're back, thighs in dead tight, here. And then change arms, figure 4, pull out with the arm bar, okay? So, if you imagine we take it from, so just stand up for a second, Matt. If we take it from a snatch, so pull him down, come behind him, okay? So straight behind him. Hooking in here, and here, hooking onto the arm, and flattening him out. And from here, coming through, and keeping it really tight, everything dead tight. And come through. Keep this stretch right back, so don't sit up. If you sit up, so just latch it, Matt. That's what you're going to get, okay, so you lose it. So pull back. Comes from here. This leg's got to be tight. What I'll try and do with this leg is constrict his breathing by putting it over his nose and mouth. What he'll try and do from there is he'll latch onto his gi and he'll try and push that leg back to escape, okay? So what I've got to do is I've got to make sure that that leg is locked inwards. If he's really strong, we'll hook it over. Keep him leaning back, change arms, come across and see the forearm comes into there, figure 4, pull out, arm bar. Pull straight down, stack him over, run behind, then hook in straight away. My weight is right on his tail here, keeping it back all the time. Hooking into there and hooking in, flattening your thighs, here. Keep that arm through, hook, and then nice and tight. Okay, have a go at that.
300 fights, Geoff, in the street. You've definitely gone the long way about finding this answer. Do you find that the harder the lesson, the better it's been taught to yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. And to clear up one thing as well, 300 fights might sound a lot to people, and I'm aware that people think that's rubbish, but when I worked on the door in Buster's nightclub, I was the least experienced doorman there. The people I worked with were far more experienced than me, and they had a lot more fights than me. I'm not proud of the fact that I had so many fights, but I was a polite person working on a very rough door, and I had people queuing up to fight, and a fight a week was the norm, and I worked there for 4 years. Sometimes you'd have 2 fights in a night. And 300 fights doesn't sound nothing to me because I was working with people who had 500 and 600 fights plus. So a guy that maybe have only had 2 fights in his lifetime, it sounds incredible, and it also sounds a lie. But I mean, I can deal with that because for me the truth's enough. And when people say it sounds like you're exaggerating, I find it really funny because I'm thinking, how would they deal with John Anderson? How would they deal with Pete Taylor? How would they deal with No Neck Maynard, Jabba James?
These are all the real people.
These are people that taught me. They were my senpais. They were more experienced than me. The reason they're not here talking to you now is because I can articulate it. I've put it into a format where I can teach it, and I teach it so I can help people. I believe I was in them fights. Most of the fights I got into were because of insecurity. I was bullied as a child, and everybody that I never hit anyone that didn't need to be hit, but I did go over the top. You know, it didn't take much for me to go, and everybody I hit was pounding that bully at school into the ground. And it was my ex-wife who's a really good person now, but you know, I kind of let her bully me as well. So everybody I fought became a manifestation of my wife at the time, became a manifestation of my school bully, became a manifestation of my bullying life. And it was gross insecurity that made me fight. So I did get into a lot of fights, and I believe it was right that I got into them, so that I can come to you and to the people out there and say, actually, I've been in over 300 fights, and I know it's wrong. So don't go that way. It's the wrong way. Rather one person go the wrong way and guide another million so they don't go the wrong way. You know what I mean? If one person can touch the stove and say, don't touch that, it's hot, then you can save maybe 1,000 people doing it. And lots of people write to me and ring me and say, I've got this problem, Geoff, what do you think? And I'll say, violence isn't the right route. If you've got no other alternative, if you can't avoid, you can't escape, you can't use dissuasion, you can't loophole, you can't posture, then maybe you should have a fight and deal with it and then get it out of your life. But if you've got any alternative other than fighting, then you should do it. Now, if I hadn't had 300 fights, you wouldn't be listening to me, because you'd be saying, well, what does Geoff know about fighting? You ain't had no fighting.
Experience is the best teacher, isn't it?
Of course it is, and all the young lads out there who are thinking, should I be fighting, should I be testing myself? I'll say to them, no, you shouldn't. You should avoid situations. And when people say, it's a strong man that walks away, I never understood that, but now I understand it. Because my practice now, my ippon now, is to let somebody off. My ippon is not to knock them out, it's to forgive them. My ippon is to beat them with guile as opposed to force. So my ippon is no longer knocking them out, because that's easy. When you're doing it every night of the week, it's easy. I could talk to you in a conversation, walk over and deal with the situation, knock a man out, stamp on his head, and come back to you and not lose my place in the conversation. That is so normal. It's like laying bricks to me. It's like a plumber's wrench, and that's really bad. But the fact that I've come through it and I've seen the error of it is great, because now I can say to people, don't go that way. And if they respect me and they look up to me, I'm not saying they do, but if they do, and I can influence them even that much, if I could leave that message with one person, then my life's been worthwhile.
Is I'll feint a knee to the stomach, so I'll come here. So I'll just feint and pull him down onto here, straight behind. This time we're going to hook in, squash him over here, and then from here I'm going to come underneath. So let me go for the face rather than that. Come from here, this way. Face bar, sorry Matt. Okay, what I want to do from the face bar, come under the nose, push it across, come for the choke. Now if he rolls over, I get my control here, okay? So, do it from the feint this time, here. Knee, pull that back, and straight behind. Hook in, push down. Once you're in this position, it should be over. His defence here is going to be to escape this leg, this way. So what I'll do, pull over that, is I'll hook my legs. So if you just come behind, have a look at my legs. What I'm also doing as well is I'm putting my thigh right into him. So come round, look at the face again. So look from here now, I'm pushing straight into here. I'm pushing all his breakfast up through his diaphragm, make it really uncomfortable. And I'm going to come from here, and crush. So that comes to there, and just crush down. I'm going to change it. Here, choke. Okay?
Recently you took a trip to America and you was invited to teach on a seminar alongside of Chuck Norris, Richard Norton, Igor Machado and Benedict. And meeting Ben, it seemed to be a climax of a lot of things that was happening to you at that time. How did you find Benny as an individual?
Well, first of all, the trip was, what a lot of people don't realise is that I've been hanging around the British and international scene for quite a while, and the invite wasn't just an invite to teach in America, it was an invite onto the world stage, because you're teaching with some of the best people in the world, and it was quite a daunting prospect for me. I'm ashamed to say that I've not really followed Benny's career, and I didn't really go over there to be impressed by Benny. I really wanted to meet the Machados and the Gracies and train with them. They were what I was really going for, and also the chance to teach for Chuck Norris and Richard Norton, who I highly respect. So I didn't really go there to be impressed by Benny, because I've never followed the kickboxing scene, and it wasn't a great interest of mine. But when I did meet him, it had a profound effect on me, because this guy, when we come back, we're sitting in the cinema watching this guy in the films. You know, he's a world-class star. He's a world-class martial artist. And when I seen him walking across the hall, it took him about half an hour to get to the toilet, because every time we walked 5 yards, somebody stopped him. And I watched him and I studied him. And this guy's at the top of the tree. You know, in that world, he's king. And yet he had time for every single person. He took as long as they wanted. He stayed with them as long as he wanted. He was very tactile, very personal with them, and you could see a lot of love coming from him. He was very, very genuine. you could see that, you know, he was just a totally real person, and it inspired me greatly, and his wife as well. His wife is the great-granddaughter of Geronimo, and she's a very spiritual person, and they both went out of the way to make me feel welcome. We went out for a meal with them and stuff like that, and they made me feel special, but they also made everybody else feel special. You know, from the young kid with the yellow belt on to like the 6th and 7th dans, he treated everybody the same. And I think, you know, I've always thought that the best way to judge a person's character is to watch the way he treats somebody who's of no profit to him. And he treated everybody exactly the same. He treated everybody regally. He didn't treat them good because they were a face or a name, or because I might be able to get something from this guy. He treated them all as though they were everything to him. And that's the most impressive thing you'll ever see. And Higgin Machado was the same. Higgin Machado sat for nearly an hour with his arm around my chair like this, around my back, talking to me like we were all friends.
He's a big guy, isn't he, Higgin, as well?
Big man, very gentle. And, you know, nothing was too much. Like with Neil Adams, you see Neil, one of the greatest fighters on the planet. Nothing is too much. And it doesn't know you from Adam. You know, you can be coming here, you can be a white belt, you can be a 10th dan, he'll treat you the same. And that's a great sign of strong character. And when you touch people like that, it makes you want to be the same. And I've always felt like that, but when you touch it, it makes you want to do it more. And then that's why you look at people like Rick Young, who is a tremendously humble person. And then you go see the people who he touches and who he trains with, and you know why. Because when you touch people like that, it makes you want to be like that. But it works the other way as well. You touch bad people, you train with bad people, you're in a bad association. If you're in an association, to all the people out there now, if you're in an association where they sit around the table slagging everybody off, move on, because it'll pull you down. If you touch bad things, it makes you feel bad. It makes you want to be bad. If you touch good things, it makes you want to be good. And it empowers you. And I know where I feel good. I feel at my best when I feel empowered and happy and want to help people. I don't feel good around negative people, so I avoid them like the plague, because their consciousness is too low, and it will drag you down. It's infectious. So I touch people like Neil Adams, people like Rick Young, people like Peter Consterdine, people like Benny, people like Higgin, the Graces, people like yourself, people that are going to empower me, not people that are going to pull me down. And I've got no qualms about saying to people, if they pull me down, I've got no qualms about ringing them and saying, don't ring me again.
Yeah.
Don't talk to me again, because I don't want to talk to you if that's how you're going to be. Because in this life we've got a choice. We can be happy or we can be miserable. And part of that choice is who you talk to. If people make you miserable, why talk to them? You know, so if it's someone that means something to you, somebody that you feel good about, then I'd normally say to them, I don't want to talk like this. I value friendship, but I don't want to be negative, and hope that they'll come through. And if they don't, you have to move on. But hopefully at some time, their consciousness will grow and they'll come back to you again. But I found, you know, don't cast your pearls before swine, because if you do, it's just throwing energy down the drain. And energy is currency. It's just like throwing money down the drain.
It's more valuable, isn't it?
Absolutely, much more valuable. And these people in America, you know, it wasn't just them, to be honest. You know, the whole association, it was an incredible association, and it's because Chuck Norris is a very humble person. If you go to Chuck Norris's ranch, he'll make you a cup of tea and he'll look after you, and he's a very humble person. And everybody in the association is the same. I've never felt so much love from people in my whole life, and I know that sounds cheesy, but it really is. It's like that, and I know from talking to Rick at length about when he trained with the Gracies and the Machados, he says they're the same. They just can't do enough for you. And you're standing there thinking, this guy's treating me like a king, and he's one of the greatest fighting legends on the planet. And it's hard to get your head around that, because we're so used to people talking to you because there's some profit in you.
Yes.
So I just think that's good, and it's what I've always felt and always believed is right. And that kind of, it didn't tell me anything new, it just confirmed what I always believed.
Coming through for the armbar, kicking the toe. We've made a mistake and he sits into it. So we link, it's not that way, Tom, sorry. You just link your arms tight. Once you get to it, it's really difficult to get out. So what we're going to do is change arms, come through, grab his belt or his trousers, whichever you can grab. Pull this over here and sit through to here. And I'm going to squeeze in to stop him breathing again. And what I'm going to do is let him struggle a little bit and just base on top of him until he tires himself. Then I'll let him roll me over. As he rolls, I'll continue rolling, come out the other way, So his arms further out. Each time you roll him over, he's going to be tighter. He's going to get tired, more and more tired. Okay, so we just once again. Come to here. This has got to be really tight. This arm's got to be over the top, onto his head, here. See, I'm tickling through, keeping it tight. Keep this elbow into his head. Coming to here. That's nice and tight straight away. If I make a mistake and sit up, and he grabs it, swap arms, keeping these thighs tight, grabbing his belt, pulling him in, and coming to here. Now you just let him feel like he's escaping. There's a nice pin there. If he was to push back that way, bridge, I'll just come into the mount. Okay? But if he pushes back, I'll just go straight into the mount. But if not, I'll just come over to here, push my head into here. Same again. Alright? So you tire him, let him think he's escaping, and then when he thinks he's escaping, so when he rolls over, just go with him. Okay? Have a go at that.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that I've found God. God's always been in my life. It's not, you know, people are saying, oh, Geoff's found God, but he's always been in my life. It's just that I always had a problem with some of the teachings of religion and never quite define God. So although he was always there, I kind of lost my way with practicing Christianity a little bit. And then because of things that have happened to me over the last few years and because of going through so much violence, which really did sicken me and really made me go inside and question myself, I re-found God, and I found my own definition to him. And you know, so I just find myself, when I'm going on courses now, I find myself having to pass that on and tell people, because it's always risky, because people see me as a fighter, and then all of a sudden I'm talking about spirituality and God. So it's always risky, and you're thinking, what will people think? But I think you have to be brave enough to go with your heart and talk the truth. And me and Sharon spoke about this a lot, and I said, I have to be honest and tell people what I think. I think violence is wrong. Sometimes you have to do it, but what I do now is I teach avoidance, escape, dissuasion, loopholing, posturing. I teach them lots of alternatives to punching people in the eye. I also teach them that violence in society is displaced, it's not personal. And if you don't take it personal, then you don't have to get involved in it, you can walk away. People get pulled into situations by their ego. Most people, I'd say 95% of them don't want to fight, so 95% of them you can walk away from. If you're strong enough to control your ego, you can do that. And like I said before, part of growing in the martial arts and getting to higher levels of grades is learning to understand yourself and learning to control your ego and your negative emotions. So my icon now is to walk away. And if that's my icon, I want to teach that to other people. I only teach people what my truth is. Now that might not be consistent with what I've said in the past, but I don't think you need to be consistent with what you said in the past. You need to be consistent with the truth. And the truth changes the more knowledge you get. So to me now, it is about God, and it's about, and God is love, and it's about being a better person. And I want to teach that through the martial arts. Initially, a few people thought I'd become a spanner, you know, a cheesy Christian, like I'd lost it, yeah. But I don't mind that. I don't mind the ridicule, because people said that when I started talking about preemptive striking. In reality, in cross training, they said, you know, who's this guy? Who do you think is, you know, he's a spanner? But now everybody's doing it. And I think if I've got any influence at all, I want to influence people towards being better people, to reach like a God consciousness and helping other people. Like you said, like in America, you know, the martial arts are all one, they're helping each other. That's what we should be doing here. We shouldn't be arguing about, you know, who's got the rights to teach this and who's got the rights to teach that, and all this insecurity stuff. We're not insecure green belts, you know, we're, you know, the people at the top, we should be guiding the people below. We should be helping people and bringing it all together, not quarrelling and fighting. That's just like school kids, you know. So we've got to bring people together and unite them. And the cross training is one way of doing that. And the message that I'm getting across is, you know, is from God. I feel like it's channeled through me and through lots of other people, not me being special. You know, from God. And I think the reason I've been chosen perhaps as a messenger, one of millions of messengers, by the way, I don't want to sound like I'm being special, I think the reason I've been chosen is because I have done it all wrong, and now I'm doing it right. And it's like saying, you'd be a great guy to pass this message on because you have done it wrong, and you can say to people, yeah, I've done it wrong, and I've done it right, and this is how it feels when you do it right, so do it right, try and do it right. If I've got a young guy out there who's a young first dan, and he's thinking about going and having a fight to prove what he's got, and he likes what I write, and I say, don't do that because he's not right, then hopefully he'll listen to me and think, yeah, if Geoff Thompson thinks it's not right, then that's good. And it's a good message to pass on. So I'm teaching people avoidance strategies. That's my main teaching now. Fence work and avoidance at nearly all costs. And if you can't avoid it, then I'll still teach preemptiveness. I still teach attacking first. I think you know we like. So I think like martial artists are almost like an immune system. You know, in the body. Sometimes you have to destroy cancerous cells to protect the whole. Yeah. And whilst that's not nice, you know, killing one cell might protect millions and millions of cells. So, although you might not have done much for that one cell, you have protected millions of other cells. So sometimes there is a need for violence, and that's the truth. And people don't want to hear that. People don't want to hear about preemptiveness. People don't want to hear about God. But I tell it as it is. It's the truth. It's what I believe. And if you can't be honest and teach what you believe, then you're not worth much. I shouldn't be in this position.